as it moves slowly toward the outer. This is WeatherScope.
Well, the long holiday weekend is over as most of us brace for the Monday morning commute, and it's going to be especially rough in parts of the Northeast and New England. Hi, I'm Christine Abernathy. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Mike Seidel. You've also had a very wet Sunday in parts of California and Florida, but we'll begin with a look ahead to what promises to be a rocky commute for many of you in the Northeast. And this is because of a storm all gelling together, all the storminess forming one area of low pressure off the coast of Maine and Massachusetts. And as a result, wind, heavy snowfall, rain, but the wind will be the big problem for a lot of us, especially in the big cities, New York, Philly, and D.C. The storm moving into the Gulf of Maine, throwing moisture back into the cold air, and it will be a snowstorm. Bangor, you've got snow now. Portland, you'll see the changeover later on tonight. Heavier snow, so in northeastern Maine. Boston, maybe an inch or two, but again, the big problem will be the wind. We can't overemphasize how windy this system will be by midday tomorrow and by Monday afternoon. And we're talking about wind gusts to 50 to 60 miles an hour, and that will likely blow down some trees over power lines. So we could have some power outages from this storm. So stay tuned. Again, the wind will be a big problem on Monday. We're talking about a lot of wind. We're talking about snow in Maine. And we're also talking about the possibility of those winds gusting in excess of 50 miles an hour. There is a wind advisory out tonight for New York City as the storm continues to crank up tomorrow afternoon. We'll see that wind coming in from Canada, so it will be cooler. But again, outside of the wind, we are only really concerned about the snow in Maine and parts of Nova Scotia as the storm moves up through the Canadian Maritimes. Maybe a little bit of lake effect snow off Ontario and Erie, but again, you really won't have to be overly concerned about a whole lot of snowfall, and we don't expect any snowfall in New York or certainly Philadelphia down to D.C. and Baltimore. Again, it will be the wind which is the problem. Here's our storm, cold northwest winds moving in, temperatures now in the mid-30s in Burlington, 32, 33 in Albany, 42 in Boston. We've seen snow now changing over in Lebanon, New Hampshire as we move down the Connecticut River Valley. But look what's happening. The moisture is moving out as the cold air moves in, so that's why we're not really concerned about a lot of snow back in this area and even into New Hampshire, because as the moisture moves out, the temperatures will start to fall. You've got to have both of them in tandem to get it, obviously, the snow. But these areas, Portland, Bangor, Augusta, right up towards the New Brunswick area, will get snowfall. Rain continues tonight along and ahead of our front, moving in towards Baltimore and Philadelphia. A few sprinkles on the windshield once this moves on through. Sunshine for Monday, but again, hold on to your hats. That wind chill will be a factor, and the wind's going to be blowing everything around that's not tied down. Here's the upper level support, a big spin in the atmosphere, a lot of cold air aloft. This will be zipping off to the east. This did lead to some severe weather Sunday afternoon. We had some hail in parts of western North Carolina, some severe weather around Nashville. Now, as this rotates through, a few more showers possible overnight around Atlanta and Charlotte. But again, tomorrow afternoon, plenty of sunshine. Temperature's really not that bad for early December. And again, the wind. So we got this storm pulling in and into the northeast. Storm number 2 now spinning its way into Southern California. The update and some incredible video from Los Angeles now with Christina.
Well, Mike, parts of normally sunny Southern California are trying to dry out. Too much rain in a short amount of time turned streets into rivers in Newport Beach, California on Sunday. This area just south of LA. A heavy downpour brought a half an inch of rain, causing some localized street flooding. Cars were slowing down and pedestrians were doing their best to get through the high water. Well, as we take a look at our satellite view, you can see that area of low pressure spinning here in Southern California, and that's keeping things rather messy. You're still dealing with some wet weather here. Pretty quiet for most of the rest of the west, but in Southern California you've got rain, and we're also expecting snow. That's going to be a possibility for some of the higher elevations here in Southern California. Right now, though, you can sort of see the swirl of the precipitation here. Scattered rain still around, so not out of the question that LA, San Diego, you may have some wet weather as we head through the nighttime hours and even on into tomorrow. You may still have some rain, but again, it will be snow for the higher elevations of Los Angeles County and San Bernardino County and Riverside and Ventura County. So look out for wintry weather here. As a matter of fact, some of the higher elevations could get as much as 3 to 6 inches of snow in the mountains of Southern California and on into the southern and central Sierra. So look out, wintry weather is going to be around. Time now for our El Nino report. Mike?
And today, Christina, marks the official end of the 1997 hurricane season. In this special El Nino focused report, we take a look back at the season and the possible effects of El Nino. Here's Jim Cantori with more.
This is a special edition of El Nino Focus.
Thankfully, scenes like these were rare in the Atlantic tropical sector in 1997. The season was not as active as the previous 2. The first storm to threaten the U.S. developed from a non-tropical weather system. On July 14th, it was a complex of thunderstorms just off the Louisiana coast. By the 17th, it became better organized and was upgraded to a tropical storm named Danny. Strengthening continued, and Danny became a hurricane, making its first landfall near Empire, Louisiana, Friday morning.
We check out a radar out of the region to show you the wet weather and really the fact that this hurricane is not moving very rapidly. That's really the crux of the matter here, because heavy, intense rainfall. You can see the bands with the eye at approximately in this position here, and the bands of heavy rain just wrapping around the center of the system, moving on into Alabama.
Danny reached maximum intensity with winds of 80 miles an hour as it moved slowly toward the Alabama coast.
We have been talking throughout the morning hours that this is a minimal hurricane, and I don't want folks to get the wrong idea. It's extremely dangerous and extremely windy, and I'm going to step out just very briefly into the full force of the winds to give you an idea of what that is like. As you can see, quite a bit stronger, and it's very difficult to even be standing up out in the full force of the wind.
43 inches of rain swamped off an island, according to Doppler radar. Luckily, most of the precipitation fell over the ocean or close to the coast. As Danny moved north over land, it was downgraded. Remnants brought heavy rain and flooding to many areas, including Charlotte, North Carolina. Danny led to 4 deaths and over $100 million worth of damage. The next storm, Hurricane Erika, the only storm to develop in the deep tropics, was the only major hurricane of the Atlantic season. Erika, with winds of 125 miles per hour, did threaten the Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, but it turned to the north. The reasons for the lack of storms in the Atlantic are still being debated by the experts.
Well, of course, we're still evaluating the data, but it appears that the main element that suppressed the activity was the El Nino. It was a very strong El Nino out in the Pacific, and we know from past history that that correlates with fewer hurricanes in the Atlantic than we have otherwise.
The Pacific season was slightly above average. Hurricane Linda, the most powerful hurricane ever recorded in the eastern Pacific, with winds of 185 miles an hour, threatened Southern California, but it moved away from the coastline. On September 25th, Hurricane Nora made landfall in Mexico and moved into southern Arizona. It caused some localized flooding. Hurricane Pauline, the most devastating storm of the season, slammed in the western coast of Mexico.